Recently, I feel like I've been tested and my mental health has really been pushed to the limit. So I'd like to share with you today a few experiences that I've had that have got me into that place and what I've learned from it and how I'm moving forward. So the other day, I was on my way to work and I'd not long got off the train. I was walking along the road, just about to get onto the bridge. I work in London, so it's always a busy morning. And I was on Waterloo Bridge and I spotted a police car by the side of the road blocking off one of the lanes, which was unusual for a morning. Definitely on Waterloo Bridge, which is always chock-a-block. And I came across someone being held by somebody else, and then I saw a couple of police officers, and I also twigged that there was a police boat in the river as well. And it wasn't until I got a bit closer that I realised that the woman who was being held was hugely distressed, couldn't properly stand on her own feet. And I realised, just a penny drop moment, connecting everything together, what I was seeing and what it all meant, was that I believe it was an attempted suicide, and the woman who was with her was someone who was probably passing by and had helped her off the end. And obviously the police were there to help in any way possible as well. And the police boat, I think, was a big kind of trigger for me, because clearly they were expecting, because that clearly connected the point for me with it being a jump. And I've never come across something like that before. And it just shook me, like really, really shook me, because we often think about self-harm, or I have, through the years, and suicide is one of those things that has crossed my mind over time as well. But I feel like I got to experience a part of what the act of that could be like for someone by passing by that person that day. And it was an experience I've never had before. And my whole body was just rigid, and I was a bit dazed, actually. And I had to stop for 5 minutes once I got off the bridge, just to kind of catch my breath and just to focus myself again. And I'm not saying this to be dramatic in any way for this video. It genuinely shook me experiencing a part of what someone else was going through at that time. I didn't know the person, never seen them before. You know, there's no connection beyond feeling like I got a real sense of the distress and that hopelessness that someone else has, that we often don't see that in people. You know, when we're feeling that way, we just don't always communicate that in any way with other people. It can be such a personal experience, and it's not until perhaps we're at a stage where we're self-harming or looking at not being here anymore that it really stands out and shouts out to people that you're not okay, you know. And so it felt like a big wake-up call for me, that there's a huge leap, I think, between suicidal thoughts and the actual act of it. And that is an experience that is going to sit with me, I think, for a very long time. Something else that has happened to me recently as well is, and this has happened several times actually, different people, but all in the space of, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks. Maybe there's something in the air, I don't know. But I've had people that I know and I've known for a very long time. I suppose you could say they're kind of associates, people you know through other people, but you're not necessarily close to them. Basically, just kind of call me out in public settings, telling me that I'm fat and I need to lose weight, really. And I've just never experienced something like that before, because it's such a personal comment to make, and clearly they felt comfortable to say that to me, which is a challenge I think I have sometimes when I've known people a long time, and you can have quite close working relationships with people at times, that they obviously felt comfortable to say that. But for me, it just massively caught me off guard. And I guess in the moment, as I do, I laughed it off. I don't really remember what I said at the time, but and I know where they're coming from to some extent, because I know that for me, that I have gained weight over the last few years. Not massively, really, but probably like 2-3 stone or something. And people seem to think I've got a little bit of a belly going, but I have been really aware of my weight gain, and to be honest, I know it's there, and I don't really, to an extent, I don't really give a shit, to be honest, because I've been dealing with depression for years, and one of the first things to go really is your appearance and how much you care about yourself. I've let my hair grow. My hair's been going grey as hell over the last few years. My weight's gained. I'm not as fussed about the clothes I wear anymore, and all sorts of other stuff, And I know that, I'm aware of that, and I've lost that kind of care and that sense of, I get personal pride in a way. I still look after myself, obviously. I'm not, I still do all the basic hygiene and all the rest of it, and still dress sensibly and everything. But just that standard as I used to have for myself has just gone, and that's part of being depressed, and dealing with really poor mental health and mental illness. You don't give a shit. But what's hit me with these comments is that I'm, in one sense, I don't give a shit what people think. But also, when you hear the words, people say, sticks and stones will break your bones, words will never hurt you, that kind of stuff. Words are just words. But for some reason, they really cut through to me. I've become incredibly sensitive to criticism. And that's hard dealing with, because I guess I'm someone who's always taken pride in myself, my work ethic. I have integrity for what I'm doing. I stand up for what I believe in. And it's hard then being in a place where you feel that, someone can almost damage you by calling you out in some kind of way, really. So I need to find a way to not feel as affected by the words I hear from people. And so if anyone's got any tips on that, I'd love to hear. And if you can relate to any of this and you feel comfortable to share it, please put it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. It's a tough place to be. So for me, I've learned that words are hurtful, can be hurtful, and that I'm not bulletproof anymore. I guess I am just human, like everyone else. We all have flaws in some kind of way. We don't stay the same way forever. We're not the same person our whole life. We change, we adapt, and I think we have to find a way to let people know that what's okay, what we're comfortable with, what we're not comfortable with. I feel I shouldn't have laughed off those comments. I should have called them out on it, really, because it's been hurtful, and it's something that's dwelled on me, and I don't stand up for it with family. and people close to me. So I shouldn't see it as being okay if it's someone outside my inner circle, if you like. I've also had a couple of comments recently about me looking old, me looking worn and haggard. And I guess we all get passing comments with people in a way that we know, like, oh, you're looking a bit tired today, that kind of stuff. And that's not really what I'm getting at here. It's more in depth than that, or it cuts deeper than that for me, because it's people passing comment, not realizing that I'm the age I am, and they're thinking that I'm like a decade older at least, and that kind of thing. And they're not caring that actually that's quite offensive, And I know I've aged. At least it's offensive for me anyway, because I've always looked a bit older than I am. But I think with the grey hair kicking in, I think I look all right with it. I don't know what you think. It's starting to look a bit aged in certain ways. I get that, but people can be cruel, I suppose, sometimes. With the way that they say this stuff, and that bothers me, because it, like, these sorts of, combining all these kind of comments and stuff, it can feel like a bit of a day-to-day barrage sometimes from people in different parts of your life, when you just feel like people are having a little sly dig. It all adds up, and I guess I'm just not really used to it, like, having that, and it feels like people are just dragging you down. It's not one comment, it's when you start feeling like, oh, I've had several comments within the same space of time. I've had several comments within a week or something, and it just feels like people are criticising you all the time. I don't cope with criticism very well, because, like I said, I tend to hold myself in high regard, with how I go about myself in life, how I carry myself. I tend to push myself as much as I can, and it's like I'm doing this channel, and for some people, that takes a lot of courage, and that takes a lot of effort and hard work, and to sort of stand up and put yourself out there on a public platform in this way. But for me, it's like it's needed. It's kind of helping me cope, it's helping me heal, it's helping me think more about my life experiences. So actually it's really beneficial for me in lots of those kind of ways. So, morning. It's really useful for me in a lot of ways, and I guess I'm past that point of, to some extent, caring what people think. Well, I am and I'm not. It's kind of ironic, really, given this title of this video and what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm trying to push past the criticism and put myself out there, and to some extent not care what people think. But it still cuts through, and it's rough, and I hate it. But I'll find a way to cope with it, I'm sure. So I think processing those experiences after the fact, having some reflection time, is helpful. And in some ways, a video like this is helpful for me. And I hope it's helpful for you too, watching. And if you can relate to any of this, please put a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Right, I'm going to go because it's getting pretty windy out here now. And I'm sure it's affecting the sound quality of the video, no doubt. So thanks for watching if you got this far, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care.